I know how this sounds. I know nobody's going to believe me, but yesterday, I had coffee with the girl I abandoned 40 years ago. She laughed. She forgave me. She even hugged me before we said goodbye. There is only one problem, according to her daughter. Emily Harper had already been dead for 8 days, and somehow, that was not even the worst thing I discovered. The doctor removed his glasses and sighed. I'm afraid the cancer has spread. Michael, we've done everything we can. We should focus on making the time you have left comfortable. Time you have left. Such a strange phrase. People talk about time as though it belongs to them. But sitting there at 60 years old, I realized something. None of us own time. We only borrow it. And apparently, I did not have much left. 3 years earlier, I had buried my wife, Linda. She had been a good woman, kind, patient, far kinder than I deserved. But after she died, the house became painfully quiet. Retirement made everything worse. There were no meetings, no deadlines, no distractions, just silence and memories. Especially one memory. Emily Harper, my first love, the girl I had not seen in more than 40 years, and the girl whose life I had destroyed. For decades, I convinced myself I had moved on. I built a successful engineering company, bought a beautiful home, married Linda, lived what everyone would call a good life. But guilt is a strange thing. It does not disappear. It waits, quietly, patiently, and when life slows down, it reminds you of everything you tried to forget. Some nights, I would wake up at 2 in the morning, not because of pain, not because of nightmares, but because I remembered Emily crying. I remembered the last look she gave me, not anger, not hatred, confusion, as though she genuinely could not understand how I could leave. And the truth was, I could not understand it either. Not anymore, because at 19, fear makes sense. At 60, it looks like cowardice. A week after my diagnosis, I found myself sitting alone in the attic. I was searching for old tax papers when I discovered a dusty cardboard box, and inside it, I found her letters, 27 of them, tied together with a faded blue ribbon. My hands began shaking. I had not seen them in 40 years, because I had never opened them, not one. Back then, I had convinced myself that reading them would only make leaving harder, so I buried them, just as I buried everything else. Slowly, I untied the ribbon and opened the first envelope. Michael, I know you are scared. I am scared too, but I love you, and I know you love me. Please come home. We can figure this out together. I could not breathe. 40 years, and she had never accused me, never insulted me. She was just asking me to come home. Tears filled my eyes, and for the first time since Linda's funeral, I cried, really cried. By the time I reached the 5th letter, my vision had blurred, and then I saw the final one, the 27th letter. Its date was almost a year after I had disappeared. Michael, I cannot keep writing to someone who no longer exists. I hope wherever you are happy. I hope one day you become brave enough to forgive yourself. Goodbye. Love always. Emily, love always, even after everything. That night, I barely slept. The next morning, I drove to my doctor's office. He frowned when he saw me. Everything all right? No, I sat down. There is someone I hurt a very long time ago, and I don't know if I deserve forgiveness. The doctor smiled. Sadly, most people think dying is what scares us. It isn't. What scares us is unfinished business. Then he leaned forward. If you have something you need to say, Michael, say it, because regret is heavier than death. On the drive home, I made a decision. I was going back to the town where Emily and I had fallen in love, back to the place I had spent 40 years avoiding. But memories are strange. The closer I got, the younger I felt, and suddenly, I was 17 again. Emily Harper was sitting beside me on the school bleachers, her brown hair dancing in the wind, laughing at something I had said. She always laughed with her whole heart, and I loved that laugh. God, how I loved that laugh. We were inseparable. Back then, she wanted to become a teacher. I wanted to become an engineer. We had dreams, small dreams, but they felt enormous. On Friday nights, we would sit near Miller's Lake and talk about the future. Not mansions, not fancy cars, just ordinary things. Going to hilly area to play, with snow, movie night with lots of popcorn, and enough money to never worry. Emily used to laugh and say, I don't need a perfect life, I just need you. And back then, I believed her because I loved her. I truly did, which is why what happened next still haunted me. Everything changed 3 months. After our 19th birthday, still remember the fear in her eyes and the way her hands trembled. We were sitting inside her father's old truck, and she whispered, "Michael, I think I'm pregnant." For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she started crying, and strangely, she was not crying because she was angry. She was crying because she was afraid. And I should have held her. I should have told her we would face it together. Instead, I was afraid to. And fear has destroyed more lives than hatred ever will. At first, we tried to stay hopeful. Emily even smiled through her tears. "We will figure it out, we always do." But I was not smiling, because I knew my father. And when I finally told him, everything fell apart. He exploded. "Have you lost your mind? You are 19, do you want to throw your future away?" He called me irresponsible. He called Emily a distraction. And then he said something that changed 3 lives forever. "Love doesn't feed a baby. That girl will ruin your life," my mother cried. But she never argued with him. And slowly, his fear became my fear. The next few weeks were filled with arguments, not with Emily, with myself, because every time I looked into her eyes, I knew what I was supposed to do, stay. But every time I listened to my father, I wanted to run. And eventually, I chose fear. The day I left, Emily was standing outside her house. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she wasn't screaming. She was not angry. That somehow made it worse. She simply looked at me and whispered, "Please don't do this, we can figure it out together." I could not even look at her, because deep down, I knew she was stronger than I was, and I was ashamed. Then she said something I never forgot. "Michael, if you leave now, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." At 19, I thought she was trying to make me feel guilty. At 60, I realized she had been trying to save me, and she was right, because she had no idea that I would spend the next 40 years wishing I had listened. For 40 years, I convinced myself that Emily Harper hated me. Honestly, I hoped she did. Hatred would have made sense. Hatred would have been easier to live with, because if she hated me, then perhaps she had eventually forgotten me. But the truth was, I had no idea. And now, with death standing quietly beside me, I realized something terrifying. I was more afraid of never seeing Emily again than I was of dying. 2 days later, I drove back to the town I had spent 4 decades avoiding. Everything looked smaller. The streets, the houses, even Miller's Lake. Funny how places that once felt enormous somehow shrank with age. But memories do not. Memories stay the same size. As I passed the old movie theater where we had our first date, I smiled. The bakery where she worked after school, still there. The church where we attended Christmas service, still standing. It felt as though the town had been waiting for me. Or perhaps, I had simply never truly left. By noon, I was exhausted, emotionally exhausted. I'd rehearsed 1,000 different apologies, but now that I was actually here, I could not bring myself to knock on her door. What if she hated me? What if she slammed the door in my face? What if she had moved away? Or worse, what if she had forgotten me completely? So instead, I decided to walk. No destination, just memories. And that was when I saw her, standing outside the old bookstore. For a moment, my heart stopped. Silver hair, soft wrinkles, a blue cardigan, and those eyes, those beautiful brown eyes, older, wiser, but unmistakably hers. She looked up and froze. Then she smiled. "Michael," my knees almost gave out. She laughed softly. "My God, look at you." And just like that, I was 17 again. Neither of us knew what to say until she pointed across the street. "Coffee?" I nodded, because somehow words had abandoned me. Inside the little cafe, time seemed to disappear. For nearly 3 hours, we talked about everything and nothing. Old teachers, friends we had lost, books she loved, the songs we used to sing terribly. She laughed exactly the way she used to, and every time she laughed, my chest hurt, because I remembered how much I had loved that sound. Eventually, I could not take it anymore. "Emily," my voice trembled. "I'm sorry." Her smile faded, and suddenly, 50 years of guilt poured out of me. "I abandoned you. I abandoned our child. I abandoned everything." Tears rolled down my face. "I ruined your life." People around us pretended not to notice, but I did not care. For the first time in 40 years, I stopped hiding. Emily quietly reached across the table and held my hand. "No, Michael, you were young, you were afraid. I was angry for a very long time." She smiled sadly. but anger becomes heavy, and eventually, I got tired of carrying it. I could barely breathe. Did you hate me? She shook her head. Not forever then. She said something strange, something that sent a chill through me. Do not waste the time you have left. I frowned. What do you mean? But she ignored the question. Instead, she smiled, that beautiful smile I had missed for half a century, and whispered, promise me something. What? Stop living in yesterday. I laughed through tears. I do not know how you will learn. Then she stood up. There's one more thing. I looked up. She opened her purse and took out an old photograph. It was us, 17 years old, sitting beside Miller's Lake, laughing. The picture I thought had disappeared forever. I kept it all these years, she said, and somehow that hurt even more, because I realized something. She had remembered. All these years, she had remembered. Before leaving, she hugged me, and as she wrapped her arms around me, she whispered softly into my ear, I forgave you a long time ago. Then she smiled. Goodbye, Michael. I watched her walk away, and strangely, I noticed something odd. She never looked back, not once. That night, I slept peacefully, for the first time in years, for the first time since Linda's funeral, and for the first time since I was 19. I believed I might finally forgive myself. The next morning, I bought a dozen roses, not because I deserved another chance, but because I wanted to thank her. When I arrived at her house, I stood there smiling nervously like a teenager. I rang the doorbell and waited. A woman in her early 40s opened the door. The moment she saw the photograph in my hand, her expression changed, and then she began crying. My mother, her voice broke. My mother passed away last week. Everything inside me froze. No, that's impossible. I saw her yesterday. The woman looked pale. Yesterday, then tears filled her eyes again. Yesterday was her birthday. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she whispered, my mother always talked about a boy named Michael. My heart nearly stopped. What? She nodded. She said he was the love of her life, and she said he was just scared. Not cruel, not evil, just scared. I stumbled backward. No, that is impossible. We had coffee, we talked. She hugged me. The woman covered her mouth. Then she quietly stepped aside. Please come inside the living room. I saw her, Emily, smiling, from a framed funeral photograph, surrounded by flowers. My legs gave out, and I collapsed into a chair. The woman sat beside me. My mother died 8 days ago. I buried her 3 days ago. No, I whispered. No. The woman disappeared into another room and returned carrying several old photos, albums. For the next hour, she showed me Emily's life, birthday parties, Christmas mornings, school, graduations, family dinners, and in every photograph, there was an empty space, an absence, where someone should have been, where I should have been. Then she handed me an envelope. On the front, written in handwriting I recognized instantly, were 5 words, if Michael ever returns. My hands began shaking. I looked at her. Who are you? The woman wiped away tears and smiled sadly. My name is Sarah, and before you read that letter, she paused. There is something you deserve to know. I looked into her eyes, and suddenly, my heart stopped, because for the first time, I truly saw her. Emily's smile, Emily's eyes, Emily's way of tilting her head, and I realized why she seemed strangely familiar. Then Sarah whispered words that shattered whatever remained of my heart. Michael, I'm your daughter. For several seconds, I forgot how to breathe. I'm your daughter. Those 4 words shattered me far more than the doctor's diagnosis ever had. I stared at Sarah, and suddenly, I saw her, not Sarah, Emily. Her eyes, her smile, even the way she tilted her head when she was nervous. No, I whispered. Sarah nodded through tears. My mother never wanted to tell me who you were, not because she hated you, but because she didn't want me growing up with resentment. I buried my face in my hands and cried. Not quietly, not with dignity. I cried like a broken man, because suddenly, 50 years of regret became real. I had missed her first words, her first steps, her first day at school, her graduation, her heartbreaks, all because a frightened 19 boy had listened to fear instead of love, and somehow, the 2 people I had hurt the most had welcomed me into their home. After a while, Sarah sat beside me. My mother talked about you. I looked up. What? She smiled. Not every day, but enough. When I was little, I once asked her if she had ever fallen in love, and she said only once. I began crying again. Did she ever hate me? Sarah thought for a moment. Maybe, at first, but not later. Then she handed me the envelope. If Michael ever returns, I recognized Emily's handwriting immediately, and suddenly, I was 19 again. My hands trembled as I opened it. Michael, if you are reading this, I am probably gone, and if you came back, then I know something frightened you more than death. Regret. I hated you once, not because you left, but because I loved you enough to believe you would stay. For years, I carried anger, until I realized something. Hatred does not punish the person who hurt you, punishes the person carrying it. So, I let it go. Not for you, for me. Life was not easy. There were days I cried myself to sleep, days I wondered why. I missed the boy who promised me forever. But life also gave me a beautiful daughter, and she became the greatest blessing I ever received. Please do not waste whatever time you have left punishing yourself. I forgave you many years ago. And there is one more truth. Sarah deserves to know her father, and you deserve to know your daughter. Take care of each other. And Michael, stop living in yesterday. Love always. Emily, love always. Even after 40 years, even after everything, love always. I completely broke down, and Sarah hugged me for the first time in 60 years. Someone hugged me, not as a husband, not as a businessman, not as a patient, but as a father. 3 days later, Sarah and I visited Emily's grave. Together, neither of us spoke much. We did not need to. I placed the roses beside her name, and finally said the words I had carried inside me for half a century. I'm sorry. The wind moved gently through the cemetery, and somewhere in that silence, I thought I heard her voice, soft, young, beautiful. Goodbye, Michael. Stop living in yesterday. Maybe it was only memory, maybe not. Sarah squeezed my hand and quietly whispered, "You still have me." And for the first time in 40 years, I felt hope. The following weeks became something I never expected, a second chance, not with Emily, but with Sarah. I learned she had 2 sons, which meant I had grandchildren. At 60 years old, I laughed and cried the day they called me grandpa for the first time. And sometimes, when I looked at Sarah, I still saw Emily, not because they looked identical, but because kindness had always been Emily's greatest gift. One evening, Sarah smiled and said, "You know, Mom always believed you'd come back." I lowered my eyes. She gave me far more grace than I deserved. Sarah squeezed my hand. That's who she was, and for a while, life became peaceful. Then, a few days later, someone knocked on my door. Standing outside was a man in his 50s. He wore a black suit, and in his hand was a brown leather wallet. "Mr. Carter," I nodded. "You left this at our restaurant." I recognized him immediately. He was the manager of the cafe where Emily and I had spent that unforgettable afternoon. Oh, I smiled. "Thank you." The man smiled politely, then hesitated. "If you don't mind, may I ask you something?" "Of course." He shifted uncomfortably. "I've worked there 27 years. I have seen lonely people. I have seen happy people, but I've never seen anything like that day." I frowned. "What do you mean?" The manager looked embarrassed. "You sat at that table for almost 3 hours. You laughed. You cried. You reached across the table," but his voice softened. "You were alone." I froze. "What?" The man nodded slowly. "I remember because one of our waitresses became worried. She asked if you were all right. You kept talking to yourself. No one ever sat across from you." My blood turned cold. "No, that's impossible. We spent hours together." The manager shook his head. "I am sorry, sir, but I remember it clearly." Then he quietly left. I sat there for a very long time, and suddenly, I remembered something my doctor had told me after my diagnosis. Stress and medication can sometimes cause vivid experiences. Had loneliness finally broken me? Had guilt created one last dream? Had my dying mind invented the forgiveness I desperately needed? Or had Emily truly come back one last time? As I sat there in silence, something slipped from the wallet, a tiny dried daisy. My hands began shaking, because 50 years earlier, Emily used to tuck daisies into her hair, and on the afternoon we met, I remembered her smiling and twirling one between her fingers. Slowly, tears filled my eyes, because I could not remember putting that flower inside the wallet, and neither could Sarah. That evening, we visited Emily's grave again. The wind moved softly through the trees, and somewhere inside that gentle silence, I thought I heard the same voice I had heard in the cafe, soft, warm, and young again. "Goodbye, Michael, do not waste the time you have left. Sarah squeezed my hand. Neither of us spoke, because some questions do not need answers, and some kinds of love never truly leave. What do you think really happened? Did Michael's stress, illness, and medication create a vivid experience that allowed him to finally forgive himself? Or do you believe Emily's spirit truly came back one last time to forgive the boy she never stopped loving? And if you were Michael, what would you choose to believe? Love and lies, because every heart has a secret. Subscribe for more emotional stories. See you in the next story.